Hey, everybody. Hey, all 56,000 people watching this. It's a great day here in Seattle. It's nice and sunny. We are doing another community interview. And today we've got Kir Tuben from Washington, D.C. joining us. Fantastic wedding photographer, film photographer, consistent photographer, and also someone who has pivoted and done a lot of really cool stuff while we're in quarantine, and actually now at this point coming out of quarantine and still doing really cool stuff. So we're really happy to have you here. It's really, really nice. And our community says thank you for being here.
What an intro. My gosh, I'm like blushing. Yeah,
Well,
great. It's great to be here.
yeah. Yeah. So I want you to give a little bit of a background as to where you're shooting and what you do. I said you're a wedding photographer, but do you have any more background you could give us just for some context?
Sure. I don't know how much background you actually need. It's like a whole story. But so I do primarily shoot weddings. That's my passion. It's what I've always been into ever since I was super little. I love to say yes to the dress, and I'm into all the girly things, but also the super meaningful moments. But my background is in documentary photography. So I went to college and I did a lot of work teaching in Tanzania and teaching in parts of Vietnam. And I use my camera to teach literacy that way. So I have an education background mixed with photography. So I think a wedding is also like it's a live day, right? It's happening in front of you. So it's not always beautiful fine art images. Sometimes there's, an uncle doing a funky chicken, and I love those images too. So mostly weddings, and then I dabble in the occasional, travel and self-portraits and stuff like that. So yeah, that's like the tip of the iceberg. That's
That
me.
was great. You have a very super high level professional presence online. It's really great. For everyone watching, if you go to www.kirtuben.com, and that's spelled KIR, the number 2, BEN.com, you can see Kir's website. And it is like a great example of how to brand yourself really, really well and be really consistent. And I mean, from everything that I've seen, like, get the clients you want. If you look at our website, it is like something that, if you're a fine art photographer, it's something that you should strive for. It's a great example.
Oh my
And
God.
yeah, I mean, I say, because I do website critiques as well in this community. And yours would be an example of like someone who is just absolutely consistent across all of your branding. It's really clear who you are, what you do, what the value that you bring is to a client. And you're certainly attracting certain clients and repelling clients that wouldn't be a good fit. And that is exactly the right approach. So it's
Yeah,
really good.
attract and repel is the name of the game for sure. I always find it kind of funny because in person, I'm a lot more like messy and sarcastic and kind of loud. But my online presence is definitely very fine art. And I don't really feel like those two things are like opposite of each other. I think if anything, I'll get on a phone with the client and they'll maybe be a little bit nervous because they think I'm really bougie. And then
Yeah.
we'll start to joke and I'll show them my cats, and so it's just like having my personality, but like slightly elevated when it's
Yeah.
online.
That was great. So let's dive right in. So prior to the world like ending, which happened a few months ago, not to make light of it, but I mean, holy cow, there's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
Prior to that, were you mainly a DC and destination wedding photographer? Was that like kind of your main thing?
Yeah, so I've actually been trying to get out of destinations because they're exhausting. So I'm just trying to say like DC and Virginia and the occasional destination. Because what I would do is I would fly in, shoot the wedding, fly back, and just lose all that time in the airport and logging into my Airbnb and all of that stuff. So I prefer to shoot local, ideally, more time with my husband and my cats. So primarily I was doing that. I have a special place in my heart for elopements and smaller intimate weddings. So I was doing that pre-COVID just because, my sister eloped, Ben and I considered it. It's just something that I've always kind of romanticized. His parents eloped. So I have been offering that for a really long time. And then the only other genre that I really dove into pre-COVID is boudoir, because I love body positivity and it really goes great for some of my clients that want to gift their partner some type of memoir, like with pictures. So yeah, that's what I was doing pre-COVID slash am still doing.
That's great. That's really concentrated and really good markets to be in. Okay, so everything shuts down and now people can't gather. Like, we literally need to be next to people to be photographers pre-COVID, like most of the time. So what happened to your business during that shift? Like, what did you see happen? Were you just like in a mad rush to reschedule people, or people were rescheduling with you, trying to like hold on to what was left?
Yeah,
Like, what did you
sure.
do?
So definitely some pivoting happening because I had 33 weddings booked and 15 of them moved or postponed or canceled. So half, and we're not done, right? Some of my September, October brides have moved. Some of my couples are just waiting to see how things go. So we might see another shift in fall. So there is a big potential here that all of my clientele from 2020 could move to 2021, and I'm not going to shoot 50 weddings. It's just not going to happen. It's not realistic or enjoyable. So yeah, there was that shift. I was trying to remain patient with my clients, of course, and just having them come to me instead of inciting panic and saying like, hey, what's your decision? What's your decision? Because I don't want my clients to associate me with COVID, because obviously I'm not the reason that they're shifting their wedding. But if you're the first one to kind of push them or talk to them, then it can be seen as proactive if the language is correct. But if not, you just need to be really careful. So mostly waited for them to come to me. And then I haven't had a big wedding since I had one in February. And then my season was supposed to pick back up in late March, early April. And nope, it didn't happen. So yeah, so that's the current state. And now I have my first two larger weddings in July, and those are both out of state. So what's interesting about doing destinations is all the laws are different in different states. So it's been a wild ride.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. It's been interesting to see how everyone has adapted to it. I wanted to show your work a little bit here for everyone who's watching, so we can get a sense of like where, what you've been doing, and then also where you're going.
Sure.
Okay. So yes, just a super beautiful wedding website. You can see it is just gorgeous, very pastel, beautiful stuff. Okay, so you were doing, oh, this is so nice. You're doing
Thanks.
this really light and airy, sophisticated style, and then things kind of shut down. And what was really interesting to me was that you went and you were able to replicate that. You were able to carry that on at home.
Yeah.
So I remember seeing some of these photos. Let me go back to this one again in the group. And this is you, right?
Yeah, that's me.
Yes.
Embarrassing.
And this is your dog.
That is my friend's dog,
Your
actually.
friend's dog.
I
Okay.
wish that was my dog. So yeah.
And I'm assuming that this is in your backyard or
That
near
is
your
my
house.
backyard. That is my dining room table. Yeah.
Okay, so everybody watching at home, what I want you to see is that even though just the what hit the fan and Kerr was unable to like go out and do these beautiful weddings, she continued on with her consistent style at home. So it looks like you were setting up styled shoots in your backyard using like what you had available.
Yeah. So more or less, I just have to be shooting. If it's, me at home or portraits of my husband or double exposures of, weird stuff. That's like how I communicate with the world. Photography is like actually my dream job. So when it stopped, I felt like a piece of me was missing and I felt really sad. So I like to shoot couples and I like to shoot landscapes and I like to shoot florals. So I was like, well, how do I do all of that with not traveling or being able to work with people? Or
Yeah.
so I learned to use my self timer, which was funny because selfies can feel, I don't know, a little awkward, which is why you see things in front of my face. I don't always. The
Sure.
vanity project is kind of scary to me. So yeah, I'll do a lot of florals that are inspiring, things that are Frenchy or European or Rococo, I really love. And then this is our like massive old Tudor house that's like constantly breaking down. But I wanted to give the feeling of like we're trapped inside and like, but we're still enjoying life. So yeah, and I think that a lot of the times your personal style isn't necessarily just your work. It can be the way that you decorate your bathroom or trinkets that you put on your nightstand. Like home design, interior design, and wedding design aren't that different. Like they're not
Yeah.
as distantly related as one might think. So yeah, I like to focus on the same colors, the same type of framing, things that inspire me, and yeah, that's my life. Actually, there's one picture that is of my hallway. That's a bunch of old photographs. Yeah, right there. So these are all of my relatives. So I love portraits of, you know, our families from the 50s and 60s. Like you can see my grandfather singing on TV and Ben's mom with like an old bug. My dad's being promoted in the army. And those are the pictures that like I love the most and I think are the most important. They're framed in my home. And we're not really as a people now as like millennials or whatever generation you qualify into, we're not doing a ton of personal work where we're documenting our day-to-day life,
Yeah.
but general pictures of like a dog walking or like Ben's grandfather holding up a turkey, like that's what inspires me. And I think about legacy when I'm doing some of this stuff. So the pictures of me and Ben trapped at home where my hair is a mess, I may not think that that's the most beautiful, important work now, but if we have kids or, you know, our aunts, uncles, cousins, it'll be cool to see like what people were doing in this super historic time. So even
Yeah.
if you're trapped at home, it's important.
Absolutely. And what's so cool is that you've managed to keep making content when basically everything was shut down, and it's still within your style. It's relevant to you, especially because it's personal work, which is great. I'm 100% on board with personal work. Like the mundane moments now are the magical moments 50 years from now. Like more than when you're really trying to like make something ordinary extraordinary. Like the ordinary is extraordinary if you just are patient and give it time. Um, but it looks like by using your own life to keep making work, you were able to keep making content, right? For blog posts, for Facebook groups, for clients to see that you're still like productive. And I think that's great.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had so many of my potential clients and existing clients say like, "Oh, we love that you're still staying inspired, and we
Mhm.
love that you did this shot." And I'm really lucky in the sense that like, yes, your vibe attracts your clientele,
Yeah.
but a lot of my clients like the same things I do. They want to have weddings where florals are dripping from the ceiling, or they also love heirloom photographs. So I think putting that out there, they see something of themselves. So it's almost like a mini ad. It's never my intention, but
Yeah.
it happens to work out that way.
Absolutely. One thing that I used to teach when I was teaching more like workshop stuff in person a long time ago, was that clients are not necessarily looking for like your new best work. They're just looking and seeing that you don't make any bad work. Uh, like 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 uh, like they're looking for that one red flag that makes them go, oh, maybe I shouldn't hire this person because it's like the biggest day of my life.
Sure.
And one thing I've noticed throughout your website, and even on your personal work that we're looking at now, like in Lightroom, and even on Facebook, is that you don't allow anything to go out there that isn't up to your standards, like your brand, um, unless I'm mistaken. But
No,
that's intentional,
it's
right?
it's very intentional. It's a lot of hard work. It's basically what I think about is I like to draw different business inspirations from other genres, not necessarily photography, but you know, different worlds. And it's something that Beyonce does. Not that I'm
Yes. Yeah.
comparing myself to Beyonce, but she is so particular about the way that she is perceived and what she allows to go out there.
Yep.
That I think it's brilliant because if you control the message, right, you can kind of control the whole business. Same thing with like Michael Jordan. The Last Dance documentary just came out, and it's because he didn't allow anything years before that, like no footage to be released in all the NBA like video games. There wasn't a Jordan character. It was just number 23. So I think if you're super intentional about it, it's it like, I don't know, it comes back and people have a solid perception of you and your work in their mind.
Yes, absolutely. When I learned that self PR lesson myself, I actually went back through all the work that I'd ever done prior to understanding that, and I deleted it. And that was like insane to most everybody else. We're like, oh my God, you spent all this time making something. Why would you delete it? But just controlling my image that way and the way that you're doing, that like doubled or tripled my career. Just because as far as everybody knew, I was like the most amazing photographer ever because I never made a bad photo.
You came out of the womb the perfect photographer.
Yeah, perfect. Like I was just born perfect. Everything I'd ever made was perfect. Oh, who was it? It was Ansel Adams, who said something like, if you make 12 good photos a year, that's a good crop. Like that's a good amount.
Yeah.
And that goes back to this like self-regulation of like public image and how powerful that is.
Yeah.
So that was something I love, like keep coming back to again with your work, and then your work during quarantine, is that you're so careful about that. And it's great because it's like reassuring to your client that I'm hiring this person who never makes mistakes. I mean, we all make mistakes, but
yeah,
you're intentional.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm doing. And it's important to talk about like the Instagram versus reality thing, because online, yes, it looks like I'm perfect and I take perfect photos and I've never made a mistake. But I am a person, obviously. So I have like my personal Instagram where it's like terrible selfies of, me on the beach with my husband, like things that I don't really want my clients to see, but my mother-in-law is like thrilled about. So, and I think it's dangerous because when the app or when social media in general came out, people viewed it as an extension of yourself, and people that made life to seem like it is perfect, they thought that they were being inauthentic, or they thought that they weren't using the app correctly, which now, because it is such a strong marketing tool, I think people hopefully are wise to the fact that it's all BS. Like it's all smoke and mirrors, and there are messy parts of my home that I'm not photographing. But it's if you can use it as a tool and an intentional tool to actually grow your business, I think that it's like, I love it. It's great.
No, it's great. Yeah. And it's smart to make that divide. Yeah, of course you have like a personal, messy, normal life, and maybe like put that on another channel. Like where you're not leading with that. You're not like, this is my business. A lot of people mix it all together.
Yeah.
And that, I don't know, I'm personally against that because there's no consistency there. Like at least if you're shooting your personal life, make it at least like roughly the same quality as your professional work, if that's the place where your customer is seeing you. But if you have like a personal Instagram, yeah, of course it can be, a little different because they don't understand it to be your professional work.
100%. And then some people capitalize on the mess, right? So not everyone that runs an Instagram is a photographer. So there's like mommy bloggers that love posting the real, but how real is real? How much news is actually news kind of situation.
Who knows?
Who knows?
We all star in our own movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, reality is quite strange, actually.
Quite strange.
Yeah, and it's not really shared between people. Not until we can like actually literally read each other's minds somehow. And,
yep, one day.
Yeah,
just download it into the cloud.
Yeah, I'm sure Elon Musk is working on something right now.
Like some Black Mirror episode, absolutely.
Yes. Okay, so you went from shooting all of these beautiful weddings everywhere to maintaining your brand and making more content at home, which is awesome. One thing I noticed with your work is that you have focused more on studio work because you're not out everywhere. And did you build a studio at your house during this time?
I did. So I'll back up for a second. We bought a condo in the Washington, D.C. area, and then I turned my guest room into a studio, which is hilarious. So it was like tiny little condo, but I made great money with it the first year. I actually flipped it into a holiday theme and then did mini sessions in this like blank all white room. That was like pretty non-denominational. So there was, an optional Christmas tree, so we didn't have to do it. But it was great because I didn't have to leave my house, and like clients could just come to me, and I played Christmas music and ate cookies, and it was fabulous. But obviously now I'm not doing like ton of turnover in many sessions because COVID is terrifying. And it's still happening. But yeah, idea, yeah, right, as they say. So I had that, and then we were looking for a new home just to kind of like, start the life. And then when we were looking, I was looking for places with en suites or in-law suites or like separate parts. And we found this like weird Tudor house that maybe you saw. And there's like a whole separate, I'm actually in my office and it's next to my studio, but there's a different entrance and it's just plain white room, bed, and I do rent it out, which is awesome. Yeah, so that's what I've been doing, and I love studio work, and I think it's really having a moment right now in photography. Like backdrops really came in, and there's a lot of, even in wedding work, some people have started bringing backdrops in to show, you know, beautiful, austere portraits of their clients.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my studio. That's my room.
Yes. Your
Oh,
cat is like perfectly in the composition there.
and she sits there all the time, and I just know that when she's gone, she's only 6, but I'm just so happy I have pictures of her now.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So you've moved into studio shooting. It sounds like that's been lucrative a little bit before quarantine, but now like it's, yeah. So what I wanted to say was, now in quarantine, or kind of like as we're getting out of it, I noticed that you are now renting your studio to people, which is
Yes.
great. Like, not only was it making you extra money in addition to weddings and boudoir and the things you were doing before, but now it's another source of income.
Yeah, it's awesome. And it's passive, but I say passive, nothing is passive income, right? So there's always work involved, but separate entrance, they shoot and leave, and I don't have to edit a thing. They just pay me, and
Oh my God.
yeah, it's great. There's not a ton of natural light studios in the Virginia/DC area. And a lot of people were a little bit nervous about renting an Airbnb for a boudoir shoot because some people don't allow that. So it's really been a cool space for the community. So that's also been a really cool aspect of it.
That's great. Do you have any recommendations or advice for people watching if they wanted to make part of their home into a studio or to do the same as you?
Yeah. So it depends on what you want to use it for, but I would say neutral is king. So white walls, or like a very light gray color. And then natural light, it depends on what type of studio you're looking for. So if you want to like get alien bees and really make it like a whole production, you don't have to have a single window in the room. But for me and a lot of photographers, especially newer photographers that aren't comfortable with artificial light, they love a natural light studio. So if you're looking for a rental space, that's ideally, what you should be looking for is good natural light, neutral, decent amount of space, separate entrance so they're not like traipsing through your home.
Yeah.
Parking, lavatory, so having a bathroom on site is huge. So yeah, those are the things I would consider. And then of course, if you want to get a studio outside of your home, you got to do all of the cost analysis to figure out like how much is rent, how many shoots do I have to do to make that up, do I have enough interest in people renting it out? So it's like a whole different animal.
Yeah, but what's cool is, like, I know people that take a part of their house and make it an Airbnb. With kind of the same concept, like, entrance, exit without disturbing you, maybe like a keypad or something you can change online, and collecting money. But what's interesting about a studio is that not only do you use it for yourself to make money, but when you're not shooting in it, it's still making money for you. That's the difference.
That is the difference.
Yes, like an Airbnb, if you're in an area where people don't go in the winter or something, it's doing nothing for you. You're
Yep.
just like paying money for it, or that space or that building is doing nothing. And then if you are a studio photographer, you are then also paying money to use a studio somewhere else. And now you've got kind of the best of both worlds. Like, that room is getting like maximum use. It's either like you're shooting in it or someone's shooting in it, but that room is like making money for you.
Yep, absolutely. And it's just part of the mortgage. So it's not like we're even, paying an additional fee for it. We thought about the Airbnb route because, like I said, I'm just fascinated in just different avenues of making money because it feels like a game to me.
Yeah.
And so they've had like a separate kitchen and a bathroom. And so we could rent it out, but the amount of shoots that I do versus how many people come in for it, it would make more just leaving it as is. So, and then we don't have to have strange, weird guests.
Yes, exactly. One kind of small question and then a larger question before we end. So the smaller question is, you are a hybrid or mostly film photographer, correct?
Yep, accurate.
Okay, and what are you shooting with a Contax, I'm
Yes.
guessing?
So
Yeah.
contacts and a Mark III, actually, because I like the focus better than the 4. So yeah, wear the hold fast, have the dual cameras, and that's how I do it.
And it looks like, are you shooting Fuji 400H? I'm trying
Yeah.
to guess by the tones.
Look at you, killing it.
Yes. Okay. Cool. And then you're matching them somehow in
Yeah.
Lightroom,
Mhm.
hopefully with Mastin Labs. I don't know.
Accurate.
Okay. So my question is, like, during quarantine and you were shooting a lot of this personal work, how are you working with your film? Like, were there labs that were open? Were you able to send your film anywhere? How
Great
did
question.
that all work?
Great question. So when I'm doing personal work, it's 100% film. My weddings, I am definitely hybrid. I don't shoot all film. That's not because I don't like it or I can't do it. It's just expensive. So your girl likes to shoot like 5 to 10 rolls and then digital because that's what I prefer. But when I'm shooting personal work, it's all either 35 mil or 120, just because if I value it enough to pay for it, that means I really value the image. So all of my personal work is film, and PhotoVision's been open. So even in the gang have been crushing it out there, and their turnaround times are great. And shout out to PhotoVision, and that's it. I would love to. I played with the idea of developing my own because I used to do it in college. So like if I flip the studio part of it into a dark room, but it's a time thing for me, and I don't enjoy that aspect as much as I do the shooting aspect. So yeah, that's what I'm doing.
That's great that you're still able to do that. That's something I've been wondering. I've got all this film, stockpiling up right now. I drop it off at a local lab here to be developed, and then at Mastin Labs we have our own scanners, which is like how we make everything. So we were only limited by like the local lab developing, and they've been shut down. Although I could have sent it to PhotoVision or Fine Lab or wherever to get it. But yeah. Anyway, I was just very curious about that.
That's awesome. I love my local lab, but they are shut down. So there's a Dominion camera, like a couple minutes drive away from me, but they're not open.
Got it.
Or they weren't, so I should say.
Okay, cool. Okay, so my last question is, and this is kind of occurred since we set up this interview a while back, is that now that things are coming out of lockdown, there is a new thing, and let me find it here. Brand new thing.
Never before been done.
There
we go.
There's a new thing called micro weddings, and you were just featured in Washingtonian, DC magazine, about this. And yes, it was like all wedding planners and then you.
Yeah. And then they ended up adding a couple of people after, because I feel like so many people reached out being like, we're doing micros too. But yeah, when it first came out, it was me and like 10 planners, which was kind of a riot. Yeah, so micro weddings are the new thing. They're also called intimate weddings, mini monies, elopements, whatever you want to call them. But there's actually a big difference between a micro wedding and an elopement. Elopements are not really planned. They're typically done in secret with 2 people, whereas a micro wedding is super intentional, under 30 guests, planned months in advance. So yeah, but that's what's been happening. Handful of them are clients of mine that had big weddings planned that wanted to celebrate or honor their original date. So we'll do like a little micro elopement / micro mini wedding for them. And then a handful are ones that have decided to either cancel their wedding altogether or postpone, that I have not been working with, but they planned their wedding back home in Oklahoma and they happen to be living in DC. So yeah, it's been a cool mix, and they've been really fun.
Yeah, really, really intimate, I imagine. And it's probably like you have time with everybody. I love small weddings myself because I love formals. I love formals and portraits. That's like my whole thing, for many reasons. But yeah, with a micro wedding, you would actually have time with everybody, I'd imagine, get to know them.
Yep. Each guest can have their own like portrait session, essentially, if they want. Which is funny. This wedding was a micro wedding, or an intimate wedding that was done like a year before this all went down. So this little place is called Tudor Gardens. And so certain venues in DC actually specialize in them. So it's been great to see them becoming more popular. It's going to be interesting also to see what the future of weddings looks like, because I think the media and our industry normalizing these things, as part of we want to ideally make money, or keep our business afloat until big weddings can happen again. But I think people are looking at these and saying, hey, that's a pretty great idea. Like 10 people and I can save all this money and put it to a down payment on a house. Like, sign me
Yes.
up. So
Yeah.
I'm going to be curious to see the long-term effects that it's going to have.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, we've been, it's just traditionally we've been taught that weddings have to be this huge, elaborate thing, and it's really cool to see alternatives. And so if micro wedding is the new term, it's kind of like a new segment of wedding photography. It seems like it would be just like blue ocean for people wanting to get into it. Like it's not all like capitalized with like there's people that own that SEO or anything yet. It's like it's kind of amazing. Like there's actually a new segment
Yep.
that's being born from COVID. So it's really cool that now you've like repositioned into that as an expert too. And a great example to everyone watching that there's always new opportunities if you're aware of them, and you're able to be flexible in the way you work and the way you think. There's always new opportunities. Not everything has already been done. History is not over. There's more stuff. So
Well said.
I thought that was really cool. I love seeing, I believe the same thing, that like adversity brings opportunity, and that, if you can spot it. And so I thought that was really cool, that you're, incorporating that now.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I do a lot of yoga, and one of the mantras that one of the teachers says is "I am adaptable." She like makes you breathe in and then says "I am," and then you breathe out, and it's adaptable. And I think that's the word. Like flexible, yes, but adaptable is you're really growing with the times, and you're kind of just like letting life take you where you're supposed to go, and just kind of rolling with the punches. So yeah, I'm pumped to see how it like evolves. I'm sure it will, even after COVID times, just to see what people are prioritizing. I think there are always going to be people that love photography and invest in photography, whether there's 10 guests or 200. So that's actually been kind of nice to see and realize like, oh, hey, I can still charge this. That's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, great. So everyone watching, again, you can find Kir on the internet at www.kirtuben.com, and it's spelled KIR2BEN.com. Kir is also offering new educational resources and courses on our website. I encourage you to check that out. If you've enjoyed this interview and you are watching from our Mastin Labs business page, this is just something that we really enjoy doing for our community in our Facebook group. So the Mastin Labs community, if you're not already a part of it, I encourage you to join. It doesn't matter whether or not you own anything that we make. We just want to see you succeed, and we want to help you. So it's really fantastic to have people like Kir take time to spend with us to teach us new things, and it's really cool. Yes, I'm going to just keep saying it's really cool over again.
Well, right back at you. Like, what a
Yeah.
guy. It's just so great that you're providing all these resources for folks that want to pivot and they're stuck at home, and, they need to see someone doing something. So it's great.
Yes, there's always hope. There's always opportunity. And you just got to surround yourself with people that think the same way, and you'll just be lifted up. So that's what we're trying to do in the community. So thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, hope to have you on here again at some point. And
Anytime.
I look forward to seeing where you go from here. So,
Thanks.
all right.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. All right. Take care. And till next time, everybody, have a great day.